This workshop is Reap the Benefits of Advocacy, Money, Members, and Volunteers. Is that where you think you are? Yes. Good. That's where you are. I'm Avi Rose, I'm a moderator. I'm from Ashby Village. We're starting. And we're going to hear from a few other people. We're going to hear from Erick Larson from Village Sonoma Valley. We're going to hear from Katie Brandon from Pasadena Village, and from Mariya Kalina from the California Collaborative for Long-Term Services and Supports. But first, following up on the last session about all the data, it was really interesting to me because these were great, but they are researchers, they are not advocates, right? And in terms of the question of how are you conveying, who's getting the message, a lot of that is up to us. We are the messengers for that kind of data and for conveying our own experience. And in my experience, there are people who get intimidated about the idea of advocacy. They think it's some kind of mysterious activity, but actually, it is about building relationships, which we all know how to do. We wouldn't be here in villages if we didn't. And it's about building relationships with policymakers and others. They're not so intimidating. And talking about what we already know. A lot of it's about our own experience, but it's also about the data that we learn when we come together, and it's things that we know and feel passionate about. And when we do that, we are actually giving these people an opportunity to do their job. We're giving them the opportunity to serve the community and to meet the needs of the people of California and our own localities. That's why they're there. So, and for us, this is a way, as conveyed in the title of this workshop, this is a way for us to access money, to access new members and volunteers, to access services that our members need and that we may not provide. And in the bigger picture, this is an opportunity for us to participate in a critical conversation, and you've heard that from a few different people today, that this is a moment, as the master plan for aging in California goes more fully into effect and people know more about it and take it seriously, and as a lot of us boomers age, we have an opportunity, and in my opinion, an obligation to participate in the public discussion about how these needs are going to get met in creative ways and resourceful ways and so on. That's what this workshop is about, and we're going to cover a lot of ground in a relatively short period of time. We're going to hear first from two villages about their own experiences with advocacy. We're going to talk a bit together in our own table groups and in the large group. Then we're going to hear from Mariya Kalina. Then we're going to talk again in our small groups. We're going to wrap it up with comments to the whole group. We're going to do all this in an hour and a quarter, and it's going to be great. So, first, we're going to hear from Erick Larson, Executive Director of Village Sonoma Valley. And Erick's is a new developing village that has made a tremendous amount of progress networking and connecting with the aging services continuum. And your village is part of a successful grant that was just announced, which you'll probably talk about. And Erick, come on up.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. It's an honor to be here, actually, and particularly considering that I represent such a new, fledgling organization. We started about a year ago, and so they say that life is a series of doorways, and as one door closes, another opens. And my experience so far with working with the Village of Sonoma Valley has certainly borne that to be true. I have to confess that prior to my work with the Village Movement and the Village of Sonoma Valley, The only contact I ever had with a legislator was, on any level actually, was signing a petition on Facebook. And so I am not an expert. I've not studied this. And so all of that changed about a year ago when Charlotte sent out a general email encouraging us to, all the villages, to reach out to their state legislator to see if any one of those legislators would champion our request, the VMC's request for state funding. And so I believe in this movement. I think that we just saw all those details and all those statistics. And I've been close enough to it that I'm familiar with them personally, experiencing them through my family and my friends. So I believe in the movement, and so I was very happy to try to help and to reach out. So I said I would write a letter. Kate Hopke then provided a template for a letter for us to send. So I added information about the village movement of Sonoma Valley, or excuse me, the village of Sonoma Valley and the village movement, a little bit about myself as well. And I sent a letter off to Mark Levine, who's the assembly member from my area, and to Senator Mike McGuire to solicit their support. Well, a couple weeks later, I received a request to meet with Anna Tamayo, who was the assistant to Mark Levine. And I was very excited. And so I called Charlotte immediately and said, guess what? They said, let's talk. And so I then asked Charlotte if she would join the meeting, and we had a Zoom meeting with Anna Tamayo and another assistant from his office. And the four of us met and had actually an amazing meeting. Here was this young woman in her early 30s, and she, after we told our mission and I described what we're doing and why we're doing it and all the things that are going on, she's then started to tell a story about her grandmother and the family experience about and concerns for their grandmother, who is insistent on living alone and not having help, and et cetera, that we're all familiar with. She was very enthusiastic about her support and said that she would be happy to speak to Mark Levine on our behalf. Well, Charlotte and I left, with a high five. We thought this was a great conversation. So soon after that, we got a letter from Mark Levine's office, and Mr. Levine said that he would champion our cause for the 2023 State Legislative Budget Committee. That was a major coup. All from a letter that came from VMC that I just scribbled on, and a phone call with a really nice young lady. It was actually far easier than I anticipated. So I felt like I was on a roll and I felt empowered. So, of course, Charlotte being Charlotte, the next email came, and this one is about an initiative to, a statewide initiative for a grant, and it was called, oops, wrong one. This was for the county, and to engage with the local AAAs, the Area Agencies on Aging. And I knew a little bit about the area agency, so I thought, let me go to one of their outreach, their public outreach committee meetings. And you can go as a non-member, and you can just sit and observe what's going on, and you can actually ask questions and participate without being a member. So I went, and it was via Zoom, so it was really easy. And after a couple of meetings, I went, I began to learn some very interesting things and some kind of disturbing things about what was happening in Sonoma County. First off, the only person representing Sonoma Valley on that committee was retiring. Just as the AAA was scheduled to launch their mandated Community Needs Assessment Survey in January of '23, which meant that no one was going to be representing the Valley for this Needs Assessment Survey. And then I found out that in the past Sonoma Valley had not been represented well anyway, because no one had responded. And so I said, just on the spot, I'll do that. Well, heads turned. I was like, who are you? And so I introduced myself and said, well, we need this. And so actually they were very, very happy that I volunteered, because there's obviously a dearth of volunteers. And so they were very receptive. I volunteered. I handed out to hand out these surveys and to conduct focus groups in Sonoma Valley. It was actually a great opportunity and a great experience for me. My goals in this were to demonstrate that the village of Sonoma Valley could be a viable or valuable resource in the county, and also the survey gave me an opportunity to solicit help from other community-based organizations that I had not been able to get my foot in the door or to create a relationship with. Let me see if I can open this up. Great. So what happened out of all of this is I just began calling other organizations in the county. I started with the hospital and the health community health center. I went to the senior center, and I went to the Latin community center, the food, Meals on Wheels, and on and on. And these two pictures represent the executive directors of the organizations that decided to work with me, and also a group of volunteers. I've got 2 more minutes. Oh my God. I told him I could talk. So what happened as a result, oops, the other way. There we go. What happened as a result of this, in Sonoma, a town of 11,000 people in a county of 500,000 people, Sonoma provided 30% of all the English surveys returned, and 70% of all the Latin or the Spanish surveys returned. This was a major coup. So we were very successful, and we got a lot of notice from that. It was historic in Sonoma because we blew past all of the turf wars and all of the politics and all of the insecurities of these organizations, and they collaborated and we got it done. I want to thank Katie, because in a meeting that we were in, she had talked about an effort that they did, and as a result of that, I took pictures. And so I had pictures to document, and I sent those pictures to all the organizations, as well as to the supervisors, etc., so that people knew what we were doing. Shortly after that, I got another email from Charlotte. And this one was about a grant opportunity called the Local Aging and Disability Action Planning Grant. And I looked at the proposal and the guidelines. There was no way I was ever going to be able to apply for that grant in 28 days and with all the infrastructure, et cetera, that they required. So I put it away. 3 days later, I said, I should call AAA. So I called AAA. They said, oh, we're very interested. I negotiated with AAA, and we created a partnership, submitted a proposal to the state. Then shortly after that, they told me about they were creating an aging disability resource center in the county. I spoke to the director of the AAA in the county. Based on the experience we had just had with the survey, he said, why don't you apply for the steering committee for the ADRC? So I did. It was pretty funny. That's what we're done, I know. So I just want to say my results of all of this. As a result of following the direction that Charlotte was putting out and asking us to do all these things, we just received initial approval for an LADAP grant for Sonoma County. It's a $200,000 grant for 2 years to create a plan for aging and disabilities in the city of Sonoma and the city of Santa Rosa. We are still in the process of signing those contracts, but it's expected to happen soon. And as of last week, I was notified that I was accepted onto the steering committee for the ADRC. And so what I want to encourage you in closing, and I will stop, is that showing up is 90% of success. And it doesn't require an expertise or even a great deal of finesse. It's just a level of commitment and a sense of heart in there and well-intentioned to make it all happen. And so wish me luck, because I'm off on another journey and the door is opening. So, thank you.
I can't wait to hear what happens next year. So yeah, two of the lessons from that, yes, a little initiative can end up taking you a long way. And one of the other lessons is, do what Charlotte tells you to do. Okay, and who knows where you're gonna end up. So we're gonna hear now from Katie Brandon, from Pasadena Village, which is 12 years old. Katie has been there as a director for 2.5 years. And her village has done excellent work to become better known in the greater Pasadena area, to expand into the LGBTQ and African American communities. And today we're going to hear about their outreach and advocacy with Congresswoman Judy Chu and maybe something else. We'll see. Here's Katie.
Yes, so Congresswoman Judy Chu spoke at our National Villages Day event in February 2022, and again at our Older Adult Resource Fair in February of this year that we held. So last year, we used the celebration of National Villages Day as a reason to launch our first resource fair ever. Wayne April, who's actually in the other room, he's the chair of our Educational Programs Committee. We have committees for everything at Pasadena Village. And he was already talking with the Pasadena Police Department about hosting one of their Coffee with the Cops, you know, where they show up and they do some like lovely handshaking and such, at the village, because we thought it would be kind of fun. And in February 2020, the COVID numbers were looking kind of positive in Pasadena, so positive in a good, negative, anyway. They were looking good, that we wanted to gather outside. And so we were able to schedule the Coffee with the Cop event on February 15th, and it just kind of blossomed from there. So if you aren't familiar, in 2022, the House of Representatives declared February 15th as National Villages Day. And I like all holidays. My mom was a school teacher, so like we celebrate everything at my house. And so, you know, I take these holidays seriously. So in 2022, they recognized Beacon Hill Village on their anniversary, and the whole village movement, that National Villages Day would be on February 15th every year going forward. So Pasadena Village celebrated this event in the parking lot next to our offices. In addition to the Pasadena Police Department and their very popular K-9 unit, we had some other lovely representatives. The city mayor presented a certificate. In fact, we got a lot of certificates. Politicians really like giving them, so if you have any reason to have your village have a certificate, or any non-reason, please ask. We invited all of our members, and we offered carpool, like to try to encourage them to come. And then we sent a flyer to media representatives and to local nonprofit organizations that we had already started to partner with. We encouraged them to come for free raffle prizes, free coffee, and information and local resources. And we pulled this off in about a month. And so we asked our business partners and some of our community partners, like other nonprofits, to have a table. And our landlord is a nonprofit, so we knocked on the doors of our neighbors and asked if they wanted tables. So we had about 20 resource tables. to kind of fill out the day. But the most wonderful thing was that our keynote speaker was Congresswoman Judy Chu. She's the representative for our 28th district, where the village office and almost all of our members live. We knew that Judy championed senior services in many of her policy decisions and many of the things she championed, and we looked at her recent initiatives on her website. So at the event, and here you can see her speaking, she talked about the importance of keeping older adults in their own homes, in the community that they love, and keeping them engaged. And then she said some really nice things about Pasadena Village and what we had been doing during the pandemic. And she knew all these things because her speechwriter had called me on Monday before the event, so it was great. I could tell her exactly what I was hoping Judy would say, and look at that, she said it. So, you know, we talked about how, you know, advocacy can be a little bit of a scary word. I still am not sure I'm very comfortable with it, but I love building community, and so, and making connections. And so it was really easy to ask Congresswoman Chu to speak at our events. There's a form on our website, and you fill out the details. It's not as hard as a grant application, I promise. And every elected official we worked with has a similar form, and then they email you a confirmation and let you know if it works for them. They do ask for like lots of notice, but we've gotten people to commit within a few days just because they have an opening in their schedule and they want to meet voters, right? So if you, like me, might not know who the representatives are in where your village is, that's okay. There's an easy way to look them up based on your zip code. You just type it in, and it'll tell you everyone from your city council members on up. And so I encourage you to do that, and that way at least you know their names. And what I want to also encourage you to do is look up the zip codes of where your members are, where you provide supportive services, because a lot of the districts, especially in LA County, I'm sure everywhere else, their lines are really wonky. I don't know why. So you might not know that you're bordering two different districts. And many of your members and volunteers probably know some of the elected officials or their representatives and their people in their offices. So we try to ask our members and remind them that if they're at community events, that they can share their personal experience and why the village is important to them with our elected officials. So that it's just a constant reminder that the village is there in their community and it's active and it's making a big difference in people's lives. At Pasadena Village, we just started a small task force that's coming up with talking points for each of our members to have in their back pocket. Literally, we're going to probably have a little card for your back pocket that we're going to give out to each of our members. And this is based on the Village Movement California's toolkit. So, but it'll be very short and legible and ready to use. And so that way they can use that in talking to prospective members or volunteers, and then of course our elected officials. So our first celebration of National Villages Day was such a success that we hosted another event this year on February 15th again, and we called it the Older Adult Resource Fair. And we maybe can change the slide. So this one we partnered with a local women's club and a lovely graphic designer volunteer who I think did a beautiful job to have the Older Adult Resource Fair. And we had over 50 exhibitors. It was packed. And we initially invited Assembly Member Chris Holden of the 45th District to join us, but we found out that he's in Sacramento on Tuesdays, so now we know that. We might think about having events on other days of the week. But his office actually offered to record a video to play at our event, which would have been lovely, but it was outside, and we didn't want to really deal with the video projection, so we will ask him again to come later. But what's wonderful is we have a great relationship with his field representative, Mariya Kalina, and she's come to both of these events and some of our other events at Pasadena Village. And in a similar way, Erick, to what you were saying, when we initially met with her, she shared about her experience with her parents and them having to sell the family home to take care of themselves and pay for care, and what a difference that made in generational wealth. And it was actually a really powerful story for me to hear from someone who is out there helping our elected officials make a difference in our community. So Judy Chu came again to our event this year in 2023, and it was she gave some wonderful remarks, and she again gave us a certificate. But also we were able to follow up with both her office and with Chris Holden's office. And last year I also invited Charlotte to join me in a Zoom meeting with Anne Marie Hickenbottom to talk with Chris Holden's office about the importance of the budget request at the time for Village Movement California. And I got to learn how Charlotte talks with the offices. It was really great to be right there. It was just the three of us on the screen, and it felt like this just like great conversation about what could happen. We didn't have as great results as you, Eric, but at least they were aware of what was happening, and I feel like the relationship started. And so I think that's what we learned at Pasadena Village: is you open the door, you extend an invitation, and you never know where it'll come. So thank you so much for letting me speak.
Thank you, Katie. We're going to go right to table discussions for about 10 minutes. So we can pull the lights, we can see each other. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to take about 10 minutes. If there aren't enough people at your table, move near you, kind of fill things out a bit. 2 questions for you to consider. What ideas did these stories spark for you? And what's at least one thing that you can do when you get back to your village? Okay? And take notes on what you say and what other people say. We're going to share out a little bit after the groups. 10 minutes. Yeah. I'll repeat the questions. What ideas did these stories spark for you? And what's at least one thing you can do, or that you will do, when you get back to your village? 10 minutes.
We'll just sit back and watch.
Yeah.
We're going to stop these conversations for now, but this is an ongoing conversation. I hope people will continue it far beyond today. But let's hear some of what you're going to do when you get home. We're going to take 5 minutes to do this. Let's hear it. Mics. What's the, Patrick, you're going to help with this? Okay, Patrick's going to bring it. We're going to bring mics around. Yeah. Let's hear it. What are you going to do? All right.
So a couple of things. One was, I think it was Katie that referenced the BMC marketing toolkit. And like I had totally forgotten about that, but we spent a ton of money building this thing, and it's great. And it's available to all of you on our website. And there's a lot of really good information about how to tell your story. And it's just there. You just like download it and cut and paste it. So go for it. Village Movement California. It's on our website. Yeah, all of it. For those of you that have access, those of you that belong to Village Movement California have access to our website. So go find that stuff. It's great.
Thanks, Patrick. Okay, let's hear some more. I heard lots of ideas when I was snooping around the room, so don't be shy. Let's hear it.
Well, I'm going to contact my local board of supervisors, who is new and interested in my community.
All right.
And so that'll be, and I'm going to definitely make a contact point from the village movement site. And I heard a super idea about
Hold the mic right up to you.
the community benefits departments of hospitals, and in particular in my area, Kaiser is important, but we feel underserved, so some great ideas.
Great, and there are tools. So you mentioned talking points. Eric mentioned a letter template that he had received. Patrick just mentioned the marketing toolkit. So there are tools for you to use. That's what they're there for. Yeah.
Well, we talked about the fact that we have no idea who our representatives are above, city council members, maybe the mayor. But the more people you talk to, and the more people you find, and the more connections you can make, you might find somebody who has that personal experience where our story really speaks to them, and it becomes their passion. So we can not have to do all the work ourselves as we get someone else excited in the level that can do something. They take that passion and that experience that they've had and can apply it and help us.
And one thing about this issue, because I've advocated on other issues, is that people understand, somewhere in the generations of their family, they understand this issue. They have a personal connection. And Eric and Katie both just talked about that. People will connect.
And we've got to move now while aging is a subject out there in the world. There's always the newest, greatest social thing that people are talking about, and aging is getting a lot of play right now. Media studies that are being done and discussions about baby boomers. We need to do it while it's top of mind for people.
Okay, there you go. One more for now. Any takers? Okay, well, we're going to move. But whatever you're contemplating, go and do it. June, this summer. Do it by the end of this summer, at the latest. Okay, we're going to move, we're going to shift gears here so we can learn more about the state context of what's going on. And Mariya Kalina is going to come on up, and she is going to fill us in on the Collaborative for Long-Term Supports and Services. I'm not sure if I'm getting it right, but here she is.
It's okay. It's the afternoon slump. Thanks. Thank you very much. Hi, everybody. How are we doing? Good. I noticed there's cupcakes that are being rolled out in the back. So I'm going to go really quick because I do not want to stand between the afternoon slump and sugar. My name is Mariya Kalina. I'm the Executive Director of the California Collaborative for Long-Term Services and Supports. And we, much like BMC, are a statewide membership organization. We have nearly 60 members that represent diverse perspectives in long-term services and supports. Service providers, consumer organizations, caregiver organizations, health plans, labor unions, and together the collaborative works to advance the dignity, health, and independence of California's older and disabled adults. We're built on a hub and spoke model, meaning that we engage with both statewide organizations. For example, AARP, California Commission on Aging is in the House, C4A, I saw Michael roaming earlier. Village Movement California absolutely is a member of the collaborative, just to name a few. And we also have a regional network, local area agencies on aging, independent living centers, county health and human service agencies, local CBOs. The collaborative's regional network spans 46 of California's 58 counties, so we're pretty broad. We're pretty proud of that. And while our state organizations are working to advocate for state-level policy solutions, our regional members are actively promoting age and disability-friendly policy at the local level. And at the same time, we often come together. We come together to foster our own understanding of the LTSS system. I like to think of it as a puzzle piece, and how do these puzzle pieces come together to serve individuals? We come together to educate policymakers about the needs of older adults and people with disabilities. We come together in small work groups to develop policy solutions and recommendations and engage with our administration. And we build connections. I think relationships are so critical to movements, to social movements. So that's part of what we do, is we strike connections between stakeholders and LTSS, and we support one another in our individual advocacy efforts. Okay, so I'm going to turn to the slides, and hopefully I know how to operate this thing. Aging and Disability Fast Facts. We put together a publication for our legislature at the beginning of this year. If you would like a copy, I'm happy to share that out with Charlotte. I'm sure she can distribute it. These are just a couple of excerpts from that presentation. A little bit about the collaborative. I think I went through these key points here. So first and foremost, I just want to say that we recognize that California is in the middle of a major demographic shift. Is that a surprise to anybody? Over the next few decades, the growth in older adult population will outpace that of working age adults and children. By 2030, and we're all kind of, I think we've all heard this bullet point, that by 2030, 25% of California will be 60 plus. But it doesn't stop there. By 2060, that figure will grow to about 32% of the population. And this demographic shift will have a significant ripple across a myriad of policy areas, things that we don't usually think about. And on the topic of equity, I just want to flag that while California is growing older, it's also growing more diverse. So white older adults have been kind of the prominent figure here. And as we move on, that will no longer be the case. We're going to be more diverse. And I think it's important that when we're thinking about what do our programs look like in the future, we really root ourselves in who are we serving. And so diversity, equity, those are all really critical themes in the future as we move forward. And now turning to the slide behind me. California is also home to about 7 million adults with disabilities, mobility and cognitive impairments being the most prevalent. And while disability can absolutely occur at any time in a person's life, there is data that suggests the prevalence increases with age. In California, 26% of adults aged 65 to 74 have a disability, compared to just 9% who are in that 21 to 64 age category. And our state is anticipating a 160% increase in the number of adults with disabilities by 2060. We're also living longer, so that's great news. I'm excited to grow old. I don't know about you. So here's, I know this might be hard to see in the back of the room, this graph shows life expectancy in the United States from 1950 to 2022. One caveat there is it starts to flatline as we head towards 2020. And can anybody guess why that's happening? COVID, fentanyl, there's lots of nasty stuff out there. But in general, you can see that there's been a pretty consistent upwards climb. And US life expectancy, pre-pandemic was about 81.4 years old. Another question for the audience, anybody here have young children, 5 and under? Grandchildren, 5 and under? Okay, all right. I'm a proud mother of a 3- and 4-year-old. They keep me very busy. And I always like to think about what their future might look like as they age. So following this trend, this growing trend of life expectancy, my 3- and 4-year-olds and children under 5, about half are likely to reach the age of 100. So that's really phenomenal, because there might be a time where you have 100-year-olds taking care of 80-year-olds, and and so all of this really kind of adds up to a growing need for supports, right? I had somebody here ask me what LTSS was. What is long-term services and supports? And that refers to a wide range of personal, medical, and social supports that are needed over an extended period of time. Examples, transportation, care coordination, medication management, grocery shopping, meal prep, running errands, housekeeping. Does that stuff sound like something villages do? Yeah, absolutely. And LTSS can be provided in a variety of settings, in home, personal or home health aides, caregivers, in the community, assisted living facilities, senior centers, and guess what else? Villages. This is an outdated slide. Villages got added in. Thanks to Charlotte for her advocacy on that. And facilities, nursing homes, intermediate care facilities. I think that's it. Okay, so the Master Plan for Aging has been really instrumental in serving as a catalyst for systems change. And the California Collaborative believes that its implementation is absolutely essential to ensuring that California is preparing for growing older. Our state is enriched by older and disabled adults who bring with them a wealth of life experience and make valuable contributions that really enhance the very fabric of our society. And yet, we have historically fallen short on investing in this population, which has resulted in a fragmented and underfunded system of care that's really not keeping up pace with demand. I would say that's kind of the pessimistic view. There's a lot happening in the state that we're really, really excited about. And as the collaborative, as those 60 organizations in our regional network, we are doubling down on bold objectives for LTSS in California. We are actively working to create a system that all Californians can easily navigate. That means they know about the services, they know how to get there. Access to LTSS in every community, whether it's villages or home care, all of that. Affordable LTSS choices. You all heard from Nork earlier. There's a huge challenge with affordability. What are the solutions? How do we solve that challenge? How do we meet people and make sure that they have options? And lastly, we're also focused on workforce because when it comes to LTSS, highly valued, high-quality workforce is a critical component of having a system that works. So if you too share the vision of a California for all ages and abilities, I invite you to engage. And I really love what Erick said earlier, which is it's really 90% showing up and seeing where that takes you. And your voice is absolutely critical, especially as we navigate a large turnover in the Capitol. We have about a third of our state legislature is brand new, not very experienced with aging, don't really know what LTSS is, so there's that hurdle of education. We need to continue the momentum we have created with the Master Plan for Aging, and that means sharing stories and experiences and data, and educating policy leaders about needs and highlighting model programs like the villages to bring our leadership along and to ground policy solutions in best practices. Engage. Local elected officials, reach out to your board of supervisors, your city council members, engage with your state legislators, your senators and assembly members, and legislative staff who tend to hang around, including those that are in the district. We'll always love to connect with you. And then lastly, I invite you to engage with the collaborative. Join our informational webinars. It's a great opportunity to learn about what's happening at that big picture level on the horizon. So just last week, we talked a lot about affordability. Just last week, the collaborative hosted a webinar focused on LTSS financing solutions, where we learned about kind of the progress that California has gone through, and the State Long-Term Care Insurance Task Force, which has been exploring various models for statewide LTSS benefit that would serve that middle income population that is currently not able to pay out of pocket but does not qualify for Medi-Cal to have these services. CDA, we've got a representative here from CDA. They're also gearing up to do some work in this space, and stakeholder engagement opportunities will be announced shortly. So lots of momentum, and it just takes plugging yourself in. And I also would invite you to connect with the collaborative's regional representatives to learn more about what's happening on the ground with local age and disability-friendly planning efforts. Sorry, so in closing, let's elevate villages as a model and make sure that they're part of the solution as we work to transform the aging experience in California. If you're not sure how to start the conversation, check out the report that you received in your packet today. That's got some really, really great messaging. Charlotte and her team did a great job on that. If it's helpful, the collaborative has resources. We have on-demand trainings for advocacy. How do you really speak to your legislator? How do you even find them? Who do you call to schedule an appointment? And it really does. It takes a village to create social and policy change. I fully believe that we're more effective when we learn from one another. We're stronger when we work together. And we're louder as a unified voice when we can come together in venues like this and carry that momentum forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mariya. We have time for some Q&A with Mariya, so let's...
See, and I'm after the cupcakes. I'm already packed up.
Yes, we're standing between you and the cupcakes.
Mm-hmm. It's okay, don't be shy. I'm happy to
Questions?
stick around. Questions?
Q&A or observations? Yeah, back there.
So if I was looking for your organization on Google, what would I Google?
I would Google the California Collaborative for Long-Term Services and Supports. And when you get to our website, just know that it's going to be revamped this year. It's a little out of date. But we're on there. All of the kind of base information about the collaborative is available, and hopefully you all have my email and just can reach out to me directly. I love hearing from folks. I've loved meeting some of you here at this conference today, so that was fantastic.
I think we could look at whatever follow-up communications is going to come from VMC post-conference. We can include that, among other things. Yeah. Links to resources.
Actually, I have a question. Would you be able to share your email with us? Would you please share your email with us?
I would love to share my email. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes.
I have a question I'm going to throw into the mix here. So we've been hearing a lot about the data and the demographics and some of the problems that we know about. And unless I've missed it, we haven't heard that much about some of the bolder specific solutions that are being advanced right now. So could you give us, could you fill us in on that?
You know, and I was talking to Jackie here from the Department of Aging, there's so much going on that frankly, it's really hard to keep up with. There's a lot of momentum. I will highlight the things that I'm really excited about. When it comes to LTSS, again, I think financing has been so critical, and we've been through the rope on financing solutions. It's been a couple of years of working up to this place where we're looking at some sort of benefit that could help the middle class. At the same time, starting next year, thanks to our legislature, we are removing the asset limit for Medi-Cal eligibility. So that doesn't really play into effect if you're earning above the threshold amount, but hopefully people won't have to sell off their assets in order to qualify for Medi-Cal. So that's a really big win. And of course, expanding safety net and some of the efforts there. I think, well, there's a lot, and I think, you know, it might be helpful to include a little bit of a summary in the materials that go out.
Yeah, because I think the problems are sobering. We're really familiar with them. I know that there's important work going on and that there's solutions being advanced, but it's hearing about those is inspiring and motivational. It's important, I think. Yeah.
Obvious part of the question I was going to ask. The second part is, what would you suggest we do as small villages in relation to the LTSS challenges?
I would say get engaged. I would say much of what you've heard today, reach out to your legislators, reach out to your boards of supervisors, you know, start to make those relationships and those connections. Wherever we can, you know, really be unified in our messaging and really telling the story together, that's where we start to make a difference. That's where we start to get traction. And so absolutely, and I think, you know, if there are resources the collaborative can share, I think Charlotte and I should kind of team up and see what we can put together for you all.
Yeah, I think it would help with our talking points to ask some specific points of what's gaining momentum that we might be able to support.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. There is going to be, in the coming year, Village Movement California is going to advance some communications and advocacy campaigns to support all of us getting engaged. But don't wait for it. It'll help, but don't wait. Other questions, comments, observations, things you're excited about doing when you get home? Only cupcakes. Anything else before we wrap up? Okay, well, I want to thank Erick and Katie and Mariya and everyone for participating in this workshop. We got a lot to do and we're going to do it. So, thanks very much.